Hello, and welcome to this World Geography online training content video brought to you by the Georgia Department of Education. In this video, we'll be addressing Georgia Standards of Excellence SSWG 5B, analyzing the impact of water insecurity around the world. Let's look at the standard and element we will address in this video. SSWG 5 asks teachers to teach students to analyze human interactions with the world's environments. Let's unpack that a little bit. The standard is essentially asking, how do people interact with the land? Element B asks teachers to teach students to analyze the impact of water insecurity around the world. For example, drought, desertification, water rights, and depletion of the Aral Sea. Now let's unpack the element. This is essentially asking, how have nature and humans impacted the availability of water around the world? In fact, these questions could be used as essential questions for and within a unit of instruction on this standard and element. It is important for students to understand that humans interact with the environment every day in many ways, most without even thinking about it. In fact, human-environment interaction, or HEI, is one of 5 commonly accepted themes of geography. Some of these interactions have a positive impact on the environment, but other interactions have a negative impact. It is also imperative for students to know the definitive key for human existence is water. While some people in the world have sufficient water to the point of becoming complacent and wasteful, others around the world, especially in developing nations, struggle daily for an adequate amount necessary for survival. For this video, we will look at each specific example provided in the standard. We will explore the causes behind each example of water insecurity and the impact each has on humans. We will start with drought, then desertification, water rights, and finally, the depletion of the Aral Sea. It is important to note that while we will focus on the human impact on these examples, there are also natural phenomena that contribute to these processes. In many cases, the natural process is exacerbated by human interactions. Okay, let's start by looking at drought and desertification together, since the two are inextricably linked. Prolonged periods of drought lead to desertification. Drought is simply an extended period with significantly less than average precipitation. The sun causes all weather on Earth. Therefore, slight changes in solar activity can impact significant weather-making features like the Earth's jet streams. These changes can lead to natural changes in the Earth's climate, including making an area more arid. As more wind blows over any area, it becomes more arid. Northern Africa is a perfect example of this. Northern Africa has not always been the largest arid area in the world, but changes in the climatic patterns made it this way well before negative human-environment interactions. However, as mentioned earlier, recent human activity has only intensified this natural process. Desertification is the process of land that was once not desert becoming desert. Desertification is on the rise in regions across the globe, most notably in northern Africa, surrounding the Sahara Desert, extending south into the semi-arid tropical grasslands of the Sahel. Much of this is the result of the increase in drought. However, a rapidly increasing population has placed a greater strain on the availability of resources. For example, Africans in the Sahel region largely use wood as fuel for kitchen stoves to prepare food. There is an ongoing public service movement in Nigeria to encourage citizens to switch to using coal instead of wood to stoke these fires. This increased demand for wood has led to deforestation, only leading to increased desertification. Poor farming techniques and overgrazing lead to the loss of native vegetation and are additional examples of humans in this region escalating the problem of desertification. Next, let's look at water rights. Water insecurity can lead to political problems. Earlier, we noted that fresh water is the source necessary for human survival, so it would only make sense that this may lead to conflict amongst different groups about access to this fresh water. People's rights to use water differs from place to place. While it might seem like access to fresh and clean water is a basic human right due to its nature, in fact, fresh and clean water is a privilege and resource which people purchase with human or financial capital all over the world. The term water rights, as used here in this standard, refers to the right of different governments to access and make use of fresh water. Who owns the fresh waters from a river or stream anyhow? This is a complicated and long-winded question to answer depending on where one lives. In fact, there are even differences within the United States depending on which side of the country a person lives on. Most basically, the right to fresh water depends on land ownership at and around the source of said water. Because there is no national water rights system currently in the United States, state governments are left to dispute the issue. For example, there is open dispute between states within the United States and Mexico over the use of the Colorado River. The increasing population and therefore demand on fresh water in southwestern cities like Phoenix, Arizona, has made it so the wetlands around the delta of the Gulf of California, or Sea of Cortez, are almost non-existent today. Each entity assigns different levels of blame for using an excess of the fresh water available from the Colorado River. More locally, Georgia and Florida have long disputed the use of water from the Chattahoochee River. According to state officials in Florida, the water demands of the Atlanta metropolitan area have worn out the freshwater supply, making it to the Apalachicola Bay, and therefore have had a negative impact on wildlife dependent on brackish water at the delta. Water is such a valuable resource that as long as localities continue to change the natural course of rivers by doing things like building dams and creating reservoirs, it will continue to be a point of contention between different people groups forever. Water insecurity can also lead to humans creating ecological calamities. The last example we will examine today is the Aral Sea in Central Asia. To increase farmable land in the 1960s, the Soviet Union diverted the two main rivers which feed the sea, once the world's fourth largest freshwater lake, to irrigate surrounding arid land. While the plan worked initially to increase the production and exportation of agricultural products, without the influx of fresh water, the Aral Sea shrank to about 10% of its original size over the next 40 years. It also changed the natural ecosystem by leading to water with much higher salinity rates. Once a lively fishing industry, fishing vessels now adorn the exposed lake bed, and part of the lake bed has been officially renamed a desert. Satellite images showing the differences in the Aral Sea over time are simply jaw-dropping. While there are natural causes to the reduction in the size of lakes and seas, this is clearly an example of humans not only worsening a natural process, but independently creating this environmental disaster. Efforts are underway to help replenish the waters of the Aral Sea, but there are many competing environmental and economic factors. Humans need water to survive, plain and simple. The insecurity of fresh water has natural and man-made causes. Typically, humans have only furthered processes that have led to less fresh water. However, human ingenuity is leading to advances in fresh water availability. For example, desalination and recycled wastewater are two ways humans are attempting to positively interact with the environment to battle the problem of limited fresh water. The availability of water, or lack thereof, has led to political strife and environmental tragedy. Students should understand that it is because of the scarcity and value of fresh water that these issues of human-environment interaction arise and will continue to arise across the planet. Here are some helpful links for further learning. Thanks for watching.